If you want to support the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a breakdown, a quick recap of all of the crazy stuff we saw during the Endgame live stream event with Shroud, Dr. Lupo, and Tarek. I'm going to go through everything pretty quickly because I don't think there's too much that you may not have already seen, but just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on things, show a few kind of stills that we were able to capture from some of the screens and end game areas, and just kind of talk about them. And we're going to see a lot more of this. I don't know when you're watching this video, but on Monday the 22nd they're going to be coming out with episode 3 of The Insider, so hopefully we get a little more information on some of these mechanics, end game situations, all that stuff there. But just wanted to kind of go through what we have here. So really, conquering Elseworld missions is just one of several different end game activities that we can do within Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And basically what it is, you can see here, essentially the group has found a little spot on the map, and they kind of you end up talking to a little rift that opens up this screen here, and your whole squad kind of has to pay these Promethean coins, which you can earn through gameplay to kind of pay your way into a trial, if you will, to conquer an Elseworld mission, right? And there's a bunch of different ones that we saw in the stream. They were actually able to do a couple of different variety of them, and they're not super long. They probably take about 10 minutes, so it's almost like a little bit of a strike for something like Destiny. But what these can do, you'll see that there's all sorts of different modifiers, right? You'll see different difficulty settings, and then the rewards are pretty clearly laid out, right? It tells you exactly what you're going to get out of this mission, in addition to, the random rolls. So obviously, like your XP, your credits, all the resources you're going to get is all pretty clearly laid out. But then this little box on the left here says 3x of this kind of drop pod, which means you're going to get 3 loot pieces, right? And we've seen from this that folks were getting the Bane Set, right, which is kind of the season 1. I'll get into that in a minute. But essentially, you're going to get kind of infamous and notorious gear, kind of specific to the season that this is in, and then also potentially legendaries and other gear that you want to get. But of course, this can actually go up in mastery. That's the other thing that we saw, is that what you're looking at on this screen here is just kind of the base version. You'll see the difficulty bonus right in the middle of the screen, where you can kind of get, it's pretty clearly laid out, based on the difficulty. In this case, they're just doing a level 0, no mastery, right? It kind of tells you, right, everything that you're getting just from doing this mission. But as the mastery ranks rank up, there adds, more difficulty modifiers, more enemy density, etc., etc., and then the difficulty bonus goes up, right? So you get a lot more materials. So that's pretty sweet. And from what we saw from the mastery ranks, we're still a little unclear. It looks like there's potentially 50, but it also might be infinite. They've been a little nebulous on that. They haven't exactly said, but we'll see obviously when we get in game. But I really love this. I love the idea of just some type of infinitely or near infinitely kind of grindable or forward pushing end game content. Just to me, it's really awesome when you're just really trying to push. Let's say even if it does go to 50, let's say you're really trying to push like level 40, you barely are able to beat 40, and then like you really try to fine tune your gear, and then you could maybe try to push 41, and then maybe try to push 42, and things like that, and just really try to inch more and more forward with your squad to try to push that up. And like I said, if that goes infinite, that's just great, right? So really cool. Really excited to see that. The other thing I wanted to show here, so this is part of the Nexus, right? So this is going to be really the seasonal model, and the major part of the end game. So what they're showing here is, like we saw, a finite crisis, right? And we already know that Bane and the Bane set, which I'll show in a minute, is really the season 1, right? So you'll see essentially we're in season 1, right? And you'll see up on the right hand side of the screen there's kind of blank worlds, right? Essentially being that this is the current season, right? This is the current end game that we're looking at. But what we know is that as they add new stuff, right, you're going to be able to kind of go back and do anything else. There's no FOMO in the end game content. So if you missed Season of Bane, right, and then now they're on Season of Joker or whatever it's going to be, you can still go back to the Finite Crisis world and kind of, collect and do those Bane missions, right? So you just kind of have to figure out where you are. But it's really cool that they laid it out like this, in my opinion, because it really opens them up for a lot more content post-launch, right? And especially with locations and things like that, right? So when we look at, the world that they've built, Metropolis, like, it's obviously a huge open world, but it's not limited to that. And the way they kind of got through that is with all this multiverse stuff, right? And it really opens the door, any season or any kind of DLC, additional content down the line, it could very well be like, hey, you opened up a portal to another dimension, and hey, it's the one where Hal Jordan is the Green Lantern, and whatever else, or whatever kind of situation you want there. They can kind of, they've left themselves open. So it's less about, what I'm trying to tell you here is, it's less about this individual, but just more about the possibilities. If you really think about it, the possibilities are pretty endless. So really, really cool there. The next thing I want to show, just the Bane set. I don't want to go too deep into gear in this video, but basically just showing that, this is a seasonal piece of gear, right? So this is what you'll be getting mostly from doing the Bane's mission, seasonal mission here. And this is what we saw. Dr. Lubo ended up getting a 3-piece set, and his character was just off the chain. Really, really powerful, right? And I mean, just for my money, I mean, looking at this, it's going to be hard for them to top. This 3-piece bonus looks like absolutely one of the best in the game. You heard it here that I don't know how they're going to top this. This is definitely going to be in a lot of top builds. I'm definitely going to try to implement this into my builds as soon as possible. But just wanted to kind of show that off and just show really the depth of gear, right? You could see, and this is just one, right? We've already seen Penguin, Gizmo, Lex Luthor. I think Two-Face has one, right? Like, there's a lot of these different set bonuses, and you can kind of mix and match your gear the way you want, right? Like, because you're gonna have to have 3 different pieces to get this top bonus, but you might not want that for your build. Let's say you only want your build to go up to set piece 2, right, and get these 2 bonuses, and then instead of keeping a 3rd piece, maybe you have an infamous not an infamous, a notorious piece, those pink ones, right? Or maybe you have a legendary that just has a really good perk that you want on that build, right? You can really mix and match and see how you want to do it, right? So really, really cool. And I think this Bane set's one of the best ones that we've seen so far as these Infamy sets go. The next thing here, this is kind of small, but the villain synergies here. So we don't really know exactly how these come up, but I think they were told that they're kind of tied to using those infamous weapons, or those notorious weapons. So those are those pink weapons. So we've seen a lot of gameplay and screenshots and stuff of like the Black Mask's mark, kind of that notorious weapon, right? And what we're seeing here is kind of a villain synergy, which gives kind of an additional bonus, right, while you're using that weapon. Now, we don't know if this is like a passive bonus, or it's just something you get while the weapon is equipped, but it's definitely something in addition to what the weapon text actually has itself. So just another level of gear and build customization that I'm seeing here. Hopefully we'll find out a little more about this, at a future date, maybe even in the episode 3 stream. But to me, just really cool that they're just adding layers and layers of just different unlockables, different bonuses, abilities, synergies, like all sorts of things. There's just layers upon layers, which really builds that kind of interconnected web of build possibilities. So just really cool there. And not to kind of dive deep into this one in particular, but it's really cool because we know there's going to be a lot of these different villain type weapons. So assuming they all have kind of their own one of this, that's just going to be a lot more to play around with when it comes to builds. All right, and then just the next one here really quick. So I know this picture is a little hard to kind of make it out, but this is the squad skills, right? So this is kind of that Paragon system. So we talked about this before, but basically after your character has reached level 30, you can then start unlocking or gaining squad skills, right? And these are essentially just any levels you get past 30 on a character, you'll just get a singular squad point that you can put into any one of these, right? And then you'll see some of the tiers here. So you have to get total character levels of 120 to unlock all of them, right, to be able to put points into all of them. But essentially, that just means that all 4 of your characters have to be level 30, which I think will be pretty easy for most people shortly after the game launches. But really, I mean, this is it, right, in terms of that Paragon system. And you love to see something like this. Now, the bonuses are pretty small, and that is intentional. And you'll see anything on the red side is essentially damage related. Anything on the blue side is defensive related. And each of these ones in the middle here, usually you can only put about 20 or so points into them. So, we can't see exactly what they are, but some of these are like mag size. Some of them are like shield. Some of them are even like experience, right? And you can only put if you only play 20 levels, it'll be like, maybe you can max out like your crit bonus at like an additional 10%, let's say. I'm just pulling that number out, but something like that. And then where the infinite comes in, so after you've completely maxed this whole thing out, you've got this one on the left, which is a very minor damage increase, and then the one on the right is a very minor defensive increase, and these just go infinitely. You can just infinitely put more and more points into them. So to me, really, really cool. You definitely see, especially like we mentioned, people continuously pushing higher and higher levels, getting more bonuses from, playing higher levels, different XP multipliers, right? You're going to see people really pushing some high squad levels. And again, this applies to all your characters, right? So you're going to get massive bonuses. Even if you then switch to another character, they're going to kind of keep all the bonuses you got. So this just an awesome sync, like I said, that you can really just, even if you're playing at max level, even if you don't, maybe you go on a few runs, you don't really get any gear you wanted, hopefully you at least got some levels out of it. You can still kind of feel like your character is still progressing. So that's really good. And then that is the last one I have for you here, but really just showcasing the social menu here. So you'll see right front and center is, of course, clans, right? So you'll be able to kind of clan up with your friends. I can tell you I will be starting a clan. We're going to be doing that, so let me know definitely down in the comments if you're interested in joining that when we get started. But really just seeing your friends, all the basic stuff you'd expect, right? Friend requests, your profile, your friends online. And like we said, of course, this game is completely cross-play, so I'm guessing the friend requests will probably be handled from a centralized WB login versus just your PlayStation, your Xbox, and your Steam, things like that. But then you'll see on the right-hand side, right, this is where it gets interesting, right? So you can see your friends and kind of your leaderboard. So among all your friends, you'll see kind of where you rank in terms of, your overall score, right, and kind of your score in missions. But then you'll see even further than that, we talked about this before, is kind of those different global leaderboards, right? So this is where you're going to look for that, right? So, and they have it for, single player, duos, trios, and full squad. You can kind of click on any one of these and really see like the absolute top of the top players, who's, and squads, right? Who's really got the high scores on some of these missions. Really, really cool to see. And, the other thing about that, you can't see it from this screenshot, but they said you could essentially go into these, go to the top, and just click on like the player who has the top score, and you'll see the exact build that they use, the exact character, the exact build for pretty much their whole squad that they used for the run that they did that got them the top score. And then you can even pull that character directly into your team as an NPC through the social squad feature. So really just absolutely insane. This game absolutely launching with all of the bells and whistles, some of them that people didn't even know they wanted, others that you wouldn't expect a game like this to have right off the start. And unfortunately, that's really just the bad rap that live service games have these days. Not to go down a rabbit hole on this, but it's like we said before, a lot of live service games get the rap that they launch incomplete and then they promise to add content later and then it never comes. And that is 100% a sin that a lot of them do commit, and that's why a lot of them do fail. But I can tell you, just from what we've seen, all the work that we've seen them put in, they are not doing that. They are launching this game as an absolute complete product right from the start with all of the bells and whistles on day one. That way they don't have to spend their time, and this is the bigger thing to me, they don't have to spend their time saying like, oh yeah, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that, we're going to finally add a core feature, right? We don't need to worry about that. They're going to have all the core features at launch, so they can focus all of their time on content, new DLCs, new characters, new locations, new mission types, etc., 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 right? So really, really cool. Anyway, that's it for me, really. Just wanted to kind of show you guys and give my thoughts on all of the different stuff we've seen. I'm absolutely over the moon about some of this Endgame content. It really just cannot wait to just completely dive headfirst into this game. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What's your favorite part from kind of what we've seen so far? And let me know, down in the comments what character you're thinking of maining. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's definitely going to be one of the many channels that will be providing, build recommendations, gear, playing with viewers, things like that. So definitely be sure to stay subscribed so you don't miss anything. Like the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.